And I want to share you guys one of my absolute favorite memes, which to me, this is a perfect example of what's actually been going on as it relates to the American consumer. We have our pharmacy benefit managers pointing at Big Pharma and Big Pharma pointing back at our pharmacy benefit managers. Now, there's also a reason why pharma is spending millions of dollars over here to trash PBMs. And that's also to distract the American people from their central role in driving up costs while stuffing their own pockets. Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you to our witnesses that are here. Certainly, there's been a lot of finger pointing that's gone on between the PBMs, of course, and our big pharmaceutical companies. It's happened here today at this hearing. And I just think it's important also to note who the big PBMs are. We've been hearing the term PBM a lot. We're talking about CVS Health, Cigna, United Health, a lot of these large PBM companies. We know that last year, the three major PBMs, of which I just mentioned, here in the U.S. made almost $30 billion in profits. That's a 483% increase over just the past decade. And I'm glad there's been bipartisan support and input on how to deal with this approach and ensure that the American public, of course, gets better costs for them when they are receiving the medication that they deserve and need. These are serious conversations about antitrust regulations, about enforcement, and we also have been noted multiple times that PBMs control almost 80% of the entire market, which is enormous. PBMs also integrate with insurance companies and pharmacies to funnel businesses to their own pharmacies and retailers. Now, there's also a reason why pharma is spending millions of dollars over here to trash PBMs. And that's also to distract the American people from their central role in driving up costs while stuffing their own pockets. The 8 big pharma players, AbbVie, Amgen, Bristol-Myers Squibb, Eli Lilly, Gilead, Johnson & Johnson, Merck, and Pfizer earned $110 billion in profits in 2022. And by the way, according to the Senate Finance Committee, paid only 2% in taxes. And so I want to make sure that these companies are called out by name on both the pharmacies, on both the big pharma side and also the PBM side. Now, in the 5-year period from 2016 to 2020, pharmaceutical companies raised the prices of branded prescription drugs by 36%. That's 4 times the rate of inflation. From 2016 to 2020, the 14 leading drug companies spent $577 billion on buybacks and stocks, which is $56 billion more than they spent on research and development over the same period of time. In 2021, 10 major pharmaceutical companies that made over $100 billion in profits. $100 billion in profits. That's a 137% increase from the previous year. So both big pharma and PBMs are at fault, as we saw in that meme. And so I want to make that just clear today for this hearing. Professor Conti, isn't it true that pharma manufacturers have specifically collaborated with PBMs to block generics from coming to the market and leaving consumers with higher prices?
Yes.
And is it also not true they use their market power to obtain contract terms with payers, PBMs, that limited or blocked generic competitors from being covered?
We believe exclusions are rare. There are approximately 20,000 drugs sold in the United States every day, and only a handful are excluded. However, generic forestalling of competition is real, and the GAO has just produced a report suggesting that it is increasing over time.
And I think what's really critical here is that if we're going to have actually reform here within this incredibly important part of the kind of American economy and people's healthcare, that reform is going to happen on both sides. It's got to happen on both sides. One thing that's concerning that's been about this hearing and other conversations around this topic is that pharma and House Republican allies have also fought meaningful action on drug price reform and negotiation for decades. Now, President Biden and House Democrats passed the biggest prescription drug reform in decades in the Inflation Reduction Act that was brought up multiple times today. And every, by the way, single Republican voted against it. So all of these comments about some of my colleagues feeling bad or sad for our American seniors or those that need medications, they voted against actually the Inflation Reduction Act, which actually helped and is helping this issue today. Now, Democrats have expanded negotiating for the best price for prescription drugs in Medicare. Again, Republicans oppose that. And Big Pharma, as we heard today and have heard in their former public statements, are suing to overturn that, which is quite shameful, honestly. We've capped the cost of insulin at $35 for those on Medicare. And to remind everybody, folks, all the leading Republicans running for president, including Donald Trump and Ron DeSantis, have promised to repeal that. And so we have a lot of work to do here. I want to finally, Professor Conte, can you reiterate again why negotiating drug prices is so critical?
Bottom line, it will reduce the price of drugs at the pharmacy counter and expand access. This should improve individuals' lives and also population health.
Thank you so much. That concludes my time. I want to submit to the record this article by the Wall Street Journal, which came out September 11th, 2023, just recently, on generic drugs, why they should be cheap, but why insurers are charging thousands of dollars for them. And so let's submit that, Mr. Chairman. I yield back.